What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Friday, just heading into the weekend. Thought I'd jump on Facebook and see what's on your minds. Even though it's a slow time of year, I know there's always something on your mind when it comes to the green and gold. For those of you who need some new content, we've just released the beginning of our opponent series where we look at every single one of the teams that the Packers play in 2018. Michael Cohen is up first with his look at the Chicago Bears. That just posted at PackersNews.com. Make sure you check that out. That's the week one opponent. That's the one you're going to be fixated on for the next month and a half. So get an early jump on scouting that team and see what they're up to. Yeah, not a whole lot to report. Obviously, it's a slow week when it comes to the Packers in general. They have taken their first leap into the summer. Not only players, but coaches as well. Mike McCarthy saying this is the time to get these guys out the door. But yeah, that's essentially the time of year when coaches and front office executives alike want to make sure that all is quiet when it comes to personnel and the players and what have you. And that's about it. And there's not a whole lot of questions. Some hellos, and that's about it. One thing I did want to point out is that Rich Ryman's piece on Mark Murphy's house being for sale, Mark Murphy saying that he only wants to downsize, is not looking to leave. It did get me thinking about the day will come when Mark Murphy moves on. I wonder what type of job might entice him to move on. I mean, I know a lot of Packers fans would think being in charge of the green and gold would be a dream job, but it might not be to Mark Murphy. Came from Northwestern, was found by a headhunting firm. This is clearly not something that is in his background. Played for the Washington Redskins. Obviously it's NFL related, so he has background there, but yeah, I'll be interested to see how the remainder of his tenure soldiers on. Michael chimes in with, I am very excited about our defense. Michael, I think you should be. I think Mike Pettin will bring some much needed kind of new ideas, new voice, what have you, onto the defensive side of the ball. They've got some exciting new talent. I think there's every reason to be excited. What's up, Louisiana? Da Boss? That's a name right there. Who's going to be the backup QB? Len, stay tuned. We'll find out. I know a lot of people, many people in this comment section / chat every day often wonder or opine into the comments, why is Hundley still on the roster? Hundley could be the backup next year. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could happen. DeShone Kizer may be more talented, has a better arm, but grasp of the offense, being able to move the sticks, so to speak, keep things on schedule, got to prove that. Got to prove that when the pads come on and, the defenses are starting to try and stop you, so to speak, once camp and preseason starts. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, especially as much as DeShone Kizer looked like he was swimming a little bit in OTAs and minicamp. So Hundley may be the best of what they have. We don't know. We'll find out. What do you think would have happened this offseason had Russ Ball been selected as GM and not Gutekunst? Ooh, that's like the Man in High Castle kind of thing. Like, what had happened if? I think he probably would have kept on, or would have attempted to keep on, guys like Gutekunst, Elliott Wolf, and Alonzo Highsmith. I don't know how successful he would have been. I sensed some tension there between those factions. But there's a good chance, I'm not saying it would have been a slam dunk, but there's a good chance had all three of those guys decamped to other places that they would have had to look outside the building for a personnel executive to head up the personnel side of things. But I tend to think maybe that's what Murphy was feeling, and that's why he went with Gutekunst. But that's something only Mark Murphy and those involved will ever be able to tell, and I don't know if we'll ever find that out. Steve says, top 10D, book it, Dano. I mean it, Nags. Steve, I hear you, man. Duly noted. Is Bakhtiari a top 5 tackle in the NFL, in your opinion? Philip, absolutely. Without question. Without fail. I think last year really solidified that as well, because I know the knock on David for a long time was his subpar run blocking, but I think last year put all of that to bed. He was outstanding in the run game last year in a way he hadn't been. And I think part of that was by necessity, because he knew he had to come to the fore there, because clearly with Aaron Rodgers down, they had to lean on the running game, and you just throw on the tape, and the guy was out of this world, both pass blocking and in the run game. I understand he's not the biggest guy, not the strongest guy. That's why he fell like he did in the draft, but he's a technician, and he's a guy who gets the job done. And I don't think there are 6 guys better than him in the NFL. Is Devontae considered a top 5? Ooh, a lot of NFL questions. Is Devontae considered a top 5 wide receiver by the end of the year? I doubt it, just because the perception by fans and the media usually tends to gravitate towards bigger, stronger, faster, and Devontae is none of those things. He is a technician, again, off the line of scrimmage. He's a guy who will absolutely destroy a defensive back, a corner, with his first 3 steps, heck, his first step. And, that's not something that gets, the thing that gets on SportsCenter is the guy who muscles the ball away from a guy, or a guy who, makes an incredible sideline catch. And that's not to say that Davante Adams can't do those things, but his skill set doesn't necessarily translate to big highlights. Though he will have the occasional big play that makes a highlight reel, such as his game-winning catch down in Dallas, I think being a perfect example. But yeah, I don't think he'll ever get the recognition just because of the perceived, and that's total perception, lack of physical ability. All I have to do is look back this past offseason and look at when the Packers were reportedly in the mix for Allen Robinson. So many people said, this is a guy who, will bring the physicality and the presence that Davante Adams lacks. And I tell you what, I think Davante Adams is as good, if not better, than Robinson. I think Robinson is a bigger, probably more in line with the prototypical mold of a number 1 wide receiver, but I think Davante is just as good, if not better, purely as a receiver. And I think it's funny because you look at Antonio Brown, I think he hasn't, but he should shatter all of those preconceptions. Not the biggest, not the fastest, not, anything as far as the physical ability when it comes to, the best, but guy gets it done. Guy's an amazing wide receiver, probably the best in the game currently. And I don't think Davante Adams is too far behind. Is Alexander going to struggle against big receivers? Philip, that's one thing we'll definitely be watching for when camp starts. I tend to think they'll probably put him in the slot to start out, where he won't be facing a lot of big guys on the perimeter. Now, I don't think that's going to be an ironclad rule. I do think he will kick outside sometimes, and he will have to face those guys. He didn't seem to have issues with it in college, but of course that's a whole different game. That doesn't prepare you whatsoever for the type of talent you're going to be facing outside in the NFL. So he'll be tested, and until he proves that he's up to the challenge, I'm sure offenses will, center on that and focus on that. So the word on Dez, Antonio, there is no word on Dez. The word on Dez is he's sitting out there as a free agent, and most likely will, in my opinion, until there's an injury in training camp, not just in Green Bay, but across the league. If you had to pick one in their prime, Jordy Nelson or Donald Driver, oh, wow. That's a Sophie's choice, isn't it? I think some old heads will probably kill me, but I'll say Jordy Nelson. I think Jordy could do things that Donald couldn't. I think Donald was an absolute terror across the middle. I think he's an absolute treasure as a all-time Packer. But Jordy Nelson in his prime, when he was at his height, probably 2014, 13, what have you. Man, I think he bigger, stronger, faster, better overall. If Sterling Sharp had one more good year before getting hurt, would he be a legit Hall of Fame contender? Probably, Dylan. Maybe even not then, though. I think he should be considered for the Hall of Fame, especially if Terrell Davis is getting in. Obviously, Terrell Davis has the Super Bowl on his resume, which helps him. But yeah, Sterling Sharp, you don't have to look any further than Shannon Sharp's induction, where he says, you know, I'm not even the best football player in my family. You know, I don't think he's paying lip service to his brother. I think that's the truth. Everyone talked about that, you know, when Sharp went down. Another year of production, no doubt it would have helped, but without a Super Bowl ring, that plays in the room when they cast the votes. It shouldn't, but it does. I tend to doubt it, but man, he is absolutely deserving, without question. He was, when he was on the field in the NFL, one of the most dominant receivers I've ever seen. And I've been watching football for 40 plus years. I'm going to Wisconsin tomorrow. I don't know what to do over there. Hey man, I don't know where you're going to be. There are lots of different things to do dependent on where you are in the state. If 17 gets another concussion, are we talking another Sam Shields type career? I would only I understand the impetus and the reaction towards that kind of comment, but I would only say that you talk to medical professionals, you talk to the doctors around the league, or even with the team, you know, the thing with head injuries and concussions is that every brain is different. Every brain is unique, and guys, clearly how they react to them, how they react to these hits, how they react to concussions, or how they recover from them is different. It is absolutely a case-by-case, you know, basis. Now, it would appear, now this is only working from the outside, this is only observational. We can't, you know, obviously I'm not privy to the doctors, and I'm not privy to the medical, but looking from the outside, it sure would appear that Davante Adams' brain heals in a different way / faster than some of his peers. Most notably Sam Shields, who you bring up here. Whereas with Sam's concussions, there was a noticeable length, a continual length, that every time he got one, it took longer and longer for him to get back. And that is expected. And that's, you know, I think what we've been taught as far as taught to expect. With Davante, it sure seems, again, this is just anecdotal, looking from the outside, it sure seems that his brain seems to, for whatever reason, you know, hurry up and heal. Now, all of that said, that is not to minimize what he has gone through, not to minimize the hits he took last year, two of which were absolutely egregious, horrible hits. And it is understandable why he sat down as much as he did. But I can't sit here and say, especially in June when there's nothing going on, that yes, one more hit and it's Sam Shields for him. I just think it's dangerous to speculate in any way, shape, or form what repeated head trauma, hits to the head, concussions will mean to any player, just because each one is treated so individually, so specifically. I just think it's unwise to pontificate about the potential ramifications. Worries about this new helmet down rule. How do you think it will go? Grant, I think it will be a major source of frustration early on in the season, if not throughout. I don't think it's any mystery. I know a lot of these guys have gotten television offers, which have made a few of them jump. But Gene Steratore, who, in my opinion, was the best ref remaining in the National Football League, announced or told the NFL today that he is retiring. He joins Jeff Triplett, who I know a lot of people are glad to see go, including myself. But Terry McAuley, a couple other guys. The, one of the biggest exodus of referees that we've seen in the NFL in a single offseason. And I don't think, while I don't think the rule changes, and specifically the helmet rule change, has led to that directly, in every case, I absolutely think it is playing a part in guys like Gene Steratore thinking, you know what, this is going to be an awful mess, and I don't want to put up with it. I don't want to be the target of derision and frustration, which the refs will undoubtedly be this fall. Because look, the NFL wants to get as involved and seemingly, proactive, although they're about a decade late, when it comes to head injury, when it comes to concussions, that they want to legislate out hits where defenders lower their helmet. And I think that's a fine, that's great. I'm glad they're doing that. But like I say, A, they're late. B, you've got a generation of football players who have not only, been brought up and come into your league, or are coming into your league, who have been told low man wins, who have been left to their own devices, who have, been allowed to lower their helmets and use it as a striking weapon. It's going to be really hard to legislate that out, to legislate out years and years and years of conditioning. So, yeah, I think early on, especially, it is going to be frustrating for everyone involved, not just viewers, but the players, the referees, the NFL. And again, I understand the impetus behind it, and I understand why they've gone down this path, but it is going to be, I suspect, now, obviously I'm just guessing, but I suspect you're in for a couple frustrating moments this fall. Was Mark Cuban onto anything years ago? Good question, Matt. For anyone who doesn't know what Matt's referring to, Mark Cuban penned a column or a post of some kind where he said, the NFL was due to fall as the biggest sports league in America, simply because, I'm paraphrasing, hogs get slaughtered, where the NFL had gotten too fat and too full of itself and was due for a fall. And at the time, I know a lot of people laughed at him, but you turn around, I think 1 year later, and that's when the ratings decline started to happen. And I think the NFL is scrambling a little bit, but I don't foresee them, now maybe, 10 years time, maybe they start to go the way of boxing. Boxing was once the greatest, most beloved sport in America, and obviously that waned, and possibly that happens to the NFL, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Oversaturation, yeah, Matt. I think part of that is true with the media deals that they've struck, but again, it's funny because people want to point to the noticeable downtick in ratings, but those aren't taking into account people who were watching either on Twitter back when it was that year that they had Thursday Night Football, or Amazon, or Game Pass internationally. I think just as many people are watching the games, they're just watching it in different ways, or illegally streaming. You can't discount that. So while I don't doubt it's hitting the NFL in regards to their conversations with advertisers, I don't think the NFL is any less popular. I do think that's not totally true. I think, yes, it's a little less popular than it was, say, 5 years ago, but not by much. Has Yancey a real shot at playing time? Philip, I would say a long shot. I like the kid. I think he came on pretty darn well there at the end of camp last year, but I do think he's got long odds from not only playing time, but from making the team. We'll see. We can't tell anything right now. It's all about the work he put in this offseason and how it translates onto the field when he gets opportunities in camp, which I don't think will be many. But he's got to make the most of each and every one. Better special teams player, Hundley or Kaiser, gunner or returner? I don't know, man. This ain't fantasy football. What are the odds of getting rid of Thursday night games? Dan, not good. NFL just got paid a boatload of money, not only for the broadcast of the games, but for the digital rights. I mean, the players hate it, but they're getting paid. They're getting paid a lot of money. You know, maybe it comes up during the next CBA negotiations, but, you know, the players just look at their checks and go, yeah, okay, it sucks, but I'm good. For the most part. You know, I've never talked to a player who enjoys playing on Thursday nights, but I've also never talked to a player who said they will push their union to do away with it because it increases their, you know, the whole pot that they get a percentage of. So, as horrible as Thursday night football can be, it is here for the time being. Besides Clark, who on the defense might be a surprise? I don't think Clark will be a surprise. I think he's arrived. He has star potential. But as far as the rest of the defense, I mean, I'd say Reggie Gilbert, but I know everyone, all 125 of you that are here right now, you all know Reggie Gilbert. You're not going to be surprised. I think Reggie Gilbert may be a surprise to the casual fan, the fan that shows up on Sunday, either in front of his television or sat in a seat at Lambeau and just wants to cheer their team on, you know, who isn't obsessive about the team. But as far as surprises on defense, I think everyone who's tuning into a live chat late June, they know the score. Is it a conference finals year or busted for Mike McCarthy? I don't think so. I think if they win, win the division and go to the playoffs and even lose that divisional game, I don't think he's fired. Now, if they go 8-8, 9-7, and barely squeak into the playoffs and lose in the wild card round, we'll see. I mean, it's all up to Mark Murphy. Murphy's the only one who has the answer to that question. I tend to think, though, if like a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers, they'll win their usual 10, 11, 12 games and get to the playoffs, and we'll see. But, man, I tell you, I think it will take a big downturn with Aaron Rodgers healthy for them to fire Mike McCarthy. I think it would take, you know, if Rodgers is healthy all 16 games and they miss the playoffs, I think McCarthy's done. Outside of that, anything more than that, I think Mike sticks around. Can the Packers beat the Falcons this year? Matthew, they have a much better chance because they're at home. That dome is no joke, but the home field should allow them to at least operate on offense and get after the quarterback on defense, which are two things that they've really struggled with down in Atlanta. Jeff, will the defense be better this season? Yes. Thank you for the question. All right, everybody, I'm going to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They do go by rather fast, but I will be back on Monday, barring any breaking news over the weekend. Like I said earlier, make sure you check out the Chicago Bears preview we just put up this afternoon. Michael Cohen breaking it all down for you in regards to the Packers' first opponent in 2018. That is the beginning of our 13-part series on everyone who the Packers play in 2018. Make sure you check that out. Hope you all have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.